Hey, David Raffoff here. Hope you're having a good day. Today I wanted to look at a common pattern in any kind of web application, and I have noticed it recently working in my Elixir application. Um, I had to go back and look at some of the Phoenix LiveView documentation about handling events to kind of see how they were recommended, how they were recommending handling doing some things with like business logic. And in a larger application, I've kind of gone a step further than what they have, but I thought the pattern was worth pointing out because it's something that can save a lot of headaches in any kind of web application that you're doing. So I'm just going to look at the official docs here real quick. So here you can see what I'm looking at is basically the Phoenix LiveView documentation. And one of the things that you'll be doing with LiveView is handling events that are happening. So you'll fire off an event, and then you'll also have code to handle what to do with that event. And just to find an example of one here, there's a live render for this view of a thermostat. And when we kind of get down into the code for handling that in the live view here, you'll notice that you'll have these handle info functions, and they'll be looking for a particular message, and then they'll also make a socket available here to do whatever you need to do. And so typically what you'll do is you'll listen for one of these messages. You may have some other info that comes in, like some values that come in with this. But you want to take that info, you want to do something with it, and then assuming you want to have the state change in your application, you'll do something, you'll set some kind of value on the socket. And you can see that's the pattern here essentially. So what's happening here is we're getting the new temperature by calling this thermostat module and its get reading function with the user ID off of the socket's assigns. So it's basically saying get the reading of this user's thermostat, and then it gets back an okay if that worked out, and also a temperature. And then it just uses that temperature down here to send return this tuple here that has no replies, the first part of the tuple, and then the second part is the updated socket with the new temperature set to the value that we got from reading that user's temperature. And the interesting thing about that pattern is that there's not really any logic specific to the application happening in this handler other than calling thermostat with a value that came off of the socket or the socket assigns. And what's really nice about that is it keeps this event handler really small, and all it needs to know is to just like ask the application for something, and then whatever value comes back, just respond with it. So this part of the code, this live view, really just only cares about receiving a request and sending a response. It doesn't care about like what actually has to happen with that response. And that's a really scalable pattern. If you imagine here, you had like 50 events you needed to respond to. Not that that would be, that'd probably be its own smell, but say you had 50 events kind of like this. You can see they'd all be really small, like 2 or 3 lines a piece, essentially. And then all of the actual work to figure out what to do to get updated values or to do whatever else needs to get done happens in these other modules that may not even be part of the web application. They may just be part of like your core application and not even need to be in the web layer. So anyway, that's like so you see this in the Rails world. There's an anti-pattern there called like fat controller, where you have a controller that's like hundreds of lines long that's just doing way too much, when really all it should do is follow the standard signature for like a controller action, make some kind of request like this to get an updated value, and then just respond with whatever, frequently whatever is just like a completely standard response. And I've also seen this in pretty much any kind of web application I've worked on. I've seen this on the Java side. I've seen this on React in handling events and having way too much logic like tied up in the code that just is listening for the event essentially. And then so when I was working on my Elixir application, I did something to kind of take it a step further where I don't really do any logic inside of these methods. I pretty much just delegate. So I match for like say update. A better example might be like update thermostat. If I had something I was matching for like that, an atom I was matching for, and then all I would do is just immediately call essentially like an event handler for thermostat with that same message. So I'm just delegating it out completely to something else, and that way I can do something very consistently for like every single message that I receive, and I also make sure that I'm never adding more than the bare necessity of the code to each of these event handlers. And that just reduces the risk that I'm ever going to even be tempted to put a bunch of business logic in place here, and it keeps those event handling functions really short. It came in handy because I have two pretty big, almost like single page app type views in my Elixir application or my Phoenix application. And when I went to build the second one, because all that stuff was already separated from the handling events, it was really easy for me to reuse all that code in the second view, and really made it super simple to just go in and add like variations on a kind of a core view to end up with two really useful views that shared for the most part like 80% of their code or something. So anyway, I think this is a super useful pattern, and I would encourage you to I was actually really I thought maybe I had snuck one by and found something cool that they had not considered doing. When I went to look at the documentation, it was a pleasant surprise to see they'd more or less set up their examples in that way, where they just show you to call some kind of other object in your system that other module in your system that already knows how to do all this stuff, and then just get the value back. So it's cool to see they're using some good patterns here. So anyway, if you have any comments or questions on that, just leave those below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.